By the way, John, this is break. John told me to look into this. I can confirm what John thought was true is true. There's been no announcement, but Craig Ingles has left the Union Athletics Club and is going to be trained by his old coach, Ryan Van Hoy, who's now out in California with what college, John?
Cal Poly.
Yeah, it used to be at Ole Miss, now it's called Cal Poly. So I think Van Hoy's going to have a little pro team out there. Craig Ingles trying to refine that magic. You're there.
Let's talk about this thing. Robert always gets on me, burying the lead and not realizing when he's got a big story on his hand. This is Craig Ingles. He's one of the most famous runners in the country. He's the 2019 USA champion in the 1500 meters, came heartbreakingly close to making the Olympic team in 2021. And now he's changing coaches from Pete Julian to Ryan Van Hoy. I think we need to discuss this. This is a big news story in our sport. Weldon, what do you make of this?
100%, John. Thank you. I was just about to say, like, whoa, this Robert, like, we could put some of these clips on social media. Craig Ingles, people are going to be eating this up. Leaving the big, what is it, UAC, Union Athletics Club group. But this is Nike's second biggest group, I would argue. To go out on the own, I think his career's at a real crossroads. I'd already, after this year, I wasn't expecting much. So I'm glad to see the change. You need a new stimulus if it's not working. We've seen in the past a lot of athletes, when they switch coaches, that first year is very pivotal. It's worked with Van Hoy in the past, obviously. So I think I'm glad to see him do this, because it shows to me like he's not content just to sit on the coat rails of this contract and write it out.
That I agree with Walden 100%. This guy doesn't make the Olympic team, was thinking about quitting the sport, went to business school briefly, but ends up making more money than he was before because it was a bidding war. And he probably should have, I blew this, we should have gotten him back. I'm glad that he went back to Van Hoy. He really should go all the way back to his high school coach, my buddy of mine, Chris Catton. We should have gotten together, gone to Under Armour. They should have hired us. We could have taken Ingles with us. That would be move the needle a little bit. He'd actually have a really good coach instead of a pretty good coach in Van Hoy. That was a joke, Chris. But, I mean, Chris, it's Ryan, right? But I think this is a good sign. Like, because of his personality, I don't know him. Like, I'm always wondering, does he care? Does he really have a desire to be good? And to me, this shows that he's not just going through the motions. So I think Van Hoy's a very good coach. I'm not saying that Julian's not, but I think that it's good to have training partners. You train with college kids.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? You think about Craig Ingles, one of the motivations for him joining the Nike Oregon project as it was coming out of college at Ole Miss in 2017 was the opportunity to train with Matthew Centrowitz. And Centro leaves that team at the end of 2018, I believe. And then Ingles, you look at his training partners right now, Brazier's not the same kind of runner as Craig. They just don't, Brazier doesn't run mileage. Charlie Hunter, I don't know exactly how he trains, but and I guess Craig Ingles, you're saying, okay, he's going to, who's he going to train with at Cal Poly? I mean, Van Hoy doesn't have a national class team there yet. He might after a couple of years of recruiting, but the way I see it, he had a successful stint under Pete Julian. I don't think you can say winning a U.S. title, making a world final in 2019, that's success. It's very hard to win a national title in the men's 1500. He did that. But he didn't make the Olympic team 2021. That's clearly a big disappointment. And 2022 just didn't seem to ever be able to get healthy enough to do anything. 2022 is essentially a lost season for Craig Ingles. And sometimes he's now 28 years old. It's not uncommon for athletes at this point in their career to say, okay, I need to kind of change things up to keep the fire burning. Like you said, switching to Van Hoy, I think it shows he's still got the motivation to succeed. I'm not counting Craig Ingles out. I still think he's a huge talent. I wouldn't be shocked to see him on the 1500 team next year, especially because who knows? I mean, the 1500 is going to be very interesting in the United States next year because you have the young guns, the Cole Hocker, Cooper Tier, Yared Naguse, throw Hobbs Kessler in there maybe. Then you're going to have Engels coming back. You have Josh Thompson who's kind of in the middle. You've got Johnny Gregoric, and then you've got Matthew Centrowitz coming back as well. So you're going to have an old guard against new guard battle there. And these guys, Engels and Centro, are going to be trying to make one more team. Hocker and Tier, they're going to be trying to say, hey, this is our event moving forward. So I'm fascinated to see what's going on. But yeah, I don't mind the move. I don't think this is saying like Pete Julian's a bad coach. It's just saying, hey, things have kind of stagnated from where I want to be. Need to change something up. Often that's a coaching change.
Craig Engels, John, will always be the 2019 U.S. champion, but of late, nothing's really happened, right? Didn't make the Olympics. Nothing this year. 2020 wipeout year because of COVID. So that's 3 years. I mean, my mind, his career now is like, okay, can he do something this year? Can he make the Olympics in 2024? And that's probably it. I mean, I guess if he makes it, then there's some momentum the next few years. I mean, LA 2028, a lot of people might try to hang on for then because it's in the US, but I wouldn't expect anything from him at that point. But if he doesn't make it, I think that's it. I don't see him going much longer past that. So maybe he competes in this one more year, 2025, but is he then going to really regroup and think, oh, I'm going to make LA 2028? No, I think he'd be done.
Yeah, I think that's going to be it. He's going to be 30 years old in 2024. You can still make a 1,500 team at 30. You got to be pretty good, but Craig Engels is good enough to do it. He's been very close the last 2 years. But yeah, if he doesn't make it then, if he was considering retiring after 2021 after coming so close, I wouldn't be shocked to see him walk away at that point because it's rare to have a bunch of 1,500 runners. I mean, it's just rare to be sticking into the sport as a mid-distance runner into your mid-30s.
I don't look. It would be a cool story. 5th in 2016, 4th in 2021 or 2020, 3rd in 2024. But I don't think he's ever going to make an Olympic team. I kind of before this, I viewed him as done basically. So, but look, Tier Hocker. Did anyone say the word Naguse?
I did.
So we better. I think his saving, and then you've got Kessler coming up. And Kessler, I know he didn't have a great year this year, but he got close to where he was when he had the breakout year before. So I think sometimes you stabilize your success from the year before, and then you have another breakout year. So it's not like he went way down. You know, Kessler was way better than he expected last year, and then he got close to that again this year, and then I think next year. So I think that the only way I see him making the team next year is if somebody gets hurt, or maybe Cooper Tier moves up to the 5,000 because he's now part of the Bowerman Track Club. But I just think that
those things absolutely could happen. I mean, look at this year. This year was an injury wasteland. We had a bunch of different. Cole Hocker got hurt. Matthew Centrowitz was hurt. Yared Naguse was hurt, and then bombed USA's. I think it was probably. I don't know what happened there because he was running well after USA's, but stuff like that does happen. And yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if Tia moved up to the 5K, though. Bowerman's already got a bunch of guys in that event. It's going to be fascinating. It's always a great race, the 1,500. Even this year, it was kind of weird, but I'm still going to be fascinated by it. It's a glamour event. So it's going to be fun.
But look, when the trials happened in 2021, I mean, I guess as a confession, I texted his coach, and I just like, those guys are better than Craig. They're more talented. That's what I think. I feel like Craig is when it comes down to it, he's super good. He almost made an Olympic team, but I view him as a national class runner. And I view some of these other guys as world class runners. And I know he can make a worlds and make a final, and you're technically world class if you're 12th in the final. But you know what I'm talking about? Like, I mean, Hocker was 6th in the Olympic final while in college. Centrowitz is an Olympic gold medalist. Yared Naguse was running 3:34 from the front solo in college. So if everyone's on their A game, he's not going to be in the Olympics.
Well, I think Hocker and Centro are more talented, though it's worth noting Centro went head-to-head with Engels in 2019, and Engels won. He has beaten him before. But I'm not convinced Yared Naguse is more talented than Craig Engels. I do think he's very talented, but I don't know. I could see Cole Hocker medaling at a global championship. We've already seen Matthew Centrowitz do it a number of times. I'm not convinced Yared Naguse I mean, I guess if you gave me Naguse versus Engels, who's more likely to win a medal? Yes, I'm going Naguse because he's younger. But I could see them being in the same relative talent area.
Naguse is beating Engels in college as a non-full-time runner and without altitude training. Now he's moving to altitude. Now, I'm not convinced that living in Boulder is good for a 1,500-meter runner, but I am convinced.
Ollie Hoare just had one of the best years in the world. He's based in Boulder.
I'll repeat. I'm not convinced it's a good place to train as a 1,500-meter runner.
Thank you, Robert, for sticking to your guns. What's this business school thing you guys talked about? I remember Craig going to business school.
Yeah, he went down to Ole Miss for the full semester of 2021. He was in business. He was taking classes in business school.
Oh, I applaud anyone who starts business school and doesn't finish. And real quick, while we're on the subject, will Matthew Centrowitz make a U.S. team ever again?
I say yes. I counted out Evan Jager last year, and I shouldn't have. I should. And the 1,500, I don't know. Look, like, if Centro was healthy this year with the way USA's went, I think there's no doubt he would have made the team, right? Like, if he had to get the standard, which he had, he would have had to be either Johnny Gagarik or Josh Thompson. Like, come on. He's absolutely making that team in 2022 if he's healthy. Now, maybe I'm influenced by just seeing sort of some of his rehab comeback videos on Instagram, but he certainly seems like the motivation's there to prove people he's not done. Yeah, I'm going out and going to say, yes, Matthew Centrowitz will make the team. I think that his health is the only thing. If he's healthy enough, I don't see how he doesn't make it.
I agree with John. I think he's making it. All right, let's talk about the men's half marathon in Valencia. Did we even mention it?